Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Distilled Spirits Council Ask the Expert webinar series. I'm Amy Carter, the Vice President of Member Services and Business Development here at Discus. I want to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar, so it will be available later to everyone on the public Discus YouTube channel. Before I welcome our speaker, I just need to read the Discus antitrust policy statement, which reads, "We should all refrain from discussing or exchanging information related to pricing, marketing or sales plans, costs or confidential plans regarding output or production. We should avoid talking about boycotting another company. We should not be talking about recruiting or hiring each other's employees, or we should not be talking about salaries, wages, or benefits, or any other competitively sensitive or proprietary business information." And so with that housekeeping out of the way, I also just want to let everyone know, in case you weren't aware, that Discus is the leading voice and advocate for our members, but also for the distilled spirits industry overall. We provide a wealth of resources and services, including this webinar series, and other resources that really help to educate and to share relevant trends, ideas, resources, discussions, and opportunities with those of us who are interested in distilled spirits. So our recent Ask the Expert webinars have included e-commerce featuring Reserve Bar, consumer foot traffic with Placer AI, sustainable closures featuring Talus, global regulatory compliance tips from Trace One, tips for accessing capital and expertise from Pronghorn and other industry experts. And we've also talked about the alcohol buying trends of socially conscious consumers with Women of the Vine and Spirits. Today, we're going back to e-commerce, and we're delighted to have Josh Jacobs, who is the CEO and founder of Speakeasy. He's going to share tips, insights, trends on direct-to-consumer, which is also DTC, e-commerce strategies, particularly going into the fall and the holiday season. So welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Amy. Some big shoes to fill with some of those terrific previous speakers. Hope everyone is excited to learn some more about e-commerce, hopefully a very different perspective that we have here at Speakeasy. And so thank you, Amy, for the opportunity and for hosting us.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for everyone, Josh's contact information is available in the presentation, so you can see it right there. And like I said, we'll send the recording to everyone who registered for this webinar. We'll send it out to you so you can connect with Josh later. But if you need to connect with him sooner, please leave a comment in the chat and we'll make sure that you all get connected. The way this afternoon is going to run is that Josh and I will have a conversation for about 20-30 minutes or so, and then we'll open for questions. But I do encourage folks to ask questions throughout at any time, and you can do that by using the raise your hand icon at the top of your screen. It kind of looks like this. Or you can put your question in the chat, and one of the Discus team will make sure we read out the question. So with that, let's get started. You'll probably hear a few more chimes as we let some more people into this session, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. And I know this, but Josh, just in case there are participants who might not know Speakeasy yet, what exactly is Speakeasy? Just to sort of level set for everybody.
Perfectly timed with that ambulance going by. Thank you for everyone bearing with. So our mission is to empower supplier partners to take back control over your customers, control over your data, and what it all boils down to, control over your own destiny. We accomplish this by integrating white label shopping carts into our supplier partners' websites, giving you the appearance of selling direct to consumer and owning the entire digital journey and being able to have consumers transact on your website, but again, all in a three-tier compliant fashion so that consumer is having that intimate direct relationship with their supplier partners, but they're actually purchasing from a licensed liquor store who've purchased from the corresponding distributor who've purchased from the supplier. So not supplier to consumer DTC, three-tier compliant DTC. I've heard so many different acronyms and names from indirect DTC to white label. And ultimately, we're going to be talking about strategies that fit into this realm, but really can even be applied to all sorts of DTC and e-commerce.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. And I actually hadn't heard what you said, direct to consumer? Was that the other, the new sort of term?
Yeah,
Um,
IDTC has been a new one that I've been hearing a
oh
lot.
goodness. Uh-oh. Learn something new every day. So Speakeasy is entirely online, that your platform is entirely online. Um, and so maybe you can help us understand a little bit more what to expect from online consumers today.
Yeah, for sure. And before I share some statistics, let's kick off with a quick poll. And I can't really see everyone's faces, but maybe raise your hand to answer some of this. So please humor me, and we'll also have a little test of who's paying attention. Now, raise your hands on Zoom here, or Teams here rather, if you believe consumer behaviors in the alcohol industry have evolved significantly since February 2020. We're talking about over the past 4 years now, since before the first lockdowns of the pandemic. So it looks like I see 5 hands, 4 hands. Does that sound right, Amy?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
Or
So it seems like some people are
plus one.
aligned that the consumer is largely different, and I believe radically different compared to the one pre-pandemic. Of course, number one being the amount of time we all spend in sweatpants. And now keep your hand raised or raise it again if it came down somehow, if you've shifted your marketing strategies as significantly to adapt to these new behaviors. Now I'm seeing even more hands go up. So I love it. From our perspective, the majority of brands have not shifted their strategies in conjunction with evolving consumer behaviors, but this group seems to be largely ahead of the curve, which is fantastic to see. So now everyone, you can put your hands down. No more calisthenics for the rest of the session. Really, my objective to show you just how radically different today's consumer is compared to the one pre-pandemic, and how each of you, how all of us early adopters can take advantage of this. And Luis, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So jumping in here, let's hit on 3 major consumer shifts. First, consumers are drinking more at home. We're doing everything more at home these days. This is not going to be a surprise. The majority of consumers polled indicated that they were drinking more at home compared to pre-pandemic, while only 5% are drinking more at restaurants and bars. Next slide, Luis. Not only are we drinking more at home, we also feel as though we deserve to treat ourselves after surviving the dark days of the early pandemic. You cannot escape articles on premiumization these days. And according to IWSR, recent sales were led by premium spending across all categories. Additionally, 40% of older millennials are not just drinking more at home, but they're also spending more than boomers. And what's great
Hey,
about e-commerce. Question,
well, I'm
Amy?
sorry. We do have a hand raised, so I think somebody might have a question, but finish your thought. Sorry.
Sure, sure. So additionally, 40% of older millennials are not just drinking more at home, they're spending more than boomers. And what's great about e-commerce is we can observe these trends by brand and also drill down more granularly by various demographics such as age, and build campaigns around these different segmentations.
So before we move on, I think all I can see is the initial TB has a hand raised. So you want to unmute yourself, TB, and ask your question? Ted Brooks. Oh,
Are
okay.
they
Hand went
muted
down.
maybe? Hand went down?
His
Okay.
looks like his hand went down, so I think
Okay.
maybe it was
We'll
left
keep
over. Okay, keep
marching
going.
forward.
Sorry. Yep, keep
No
marching
worries.
forward.
And we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions as well. The slides, the questions should not take up the full hour. And then one more slide, Luis. But it's not all about price or how long the liquids age in the barrel. Consumers, young consumers in particular, crave an experience. 9 in 10 CMOs agree that brands are built through experiences. You cannot just produce great juice and expect to take off. There's a misconception that alcohol suppliers are product companies, but you are not. Build and they will come as a fallacy that has been disproven time and time again. Great products are table stakes, and the companies succeeding today in the bev alc industry, and across industries for that matter, are marketing companies first and foremost. At the heart of it all, next slide, Luis, all 3 of these trends coalesce into one major question: how do we make the at-home experience next level?
Okay. And so I guess there's going to be something different that Speakeasy does on the DTC than other e-commerce platforms. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about some of the current challenges, and then I could talk a little bit about Speakeasy. So zooming out and talking about the industry at large, the challenge in the bev alc industry is we lack control. As a supplier, you only have 3 inches on a bottle, and there are hundreds of other, thousands of other bottles on the shelves. So there's clearly not enough real estate to engage with consumers, share your story, and have any hope of altering the consumer's buying behavior with all of these other products on the shelves. Next product, Luis. Next slide, excuse me. But fear not, there of course is a solution to break through. Brands are turning online where they can leverage their social media, their website, their entire digital presence to engage with consumers and drive conversion. E-commerce presents an unparalleled opportunity to go beyond the bottle, enter the consumer's home, and craft a much more robust experience than just the bottle itself. Over the course of the next 40 or so minutes, we're going to unpack this further and hit on strategies that meet consumers at home with a premium experience that can really only be delivered via DTC.
So, are you going to share some sales tactics where you've seen that brands have used that have seen the most success online? Sort of, I guess, in this season, October, November, December, but also regardless of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing I want to hit on first, and that's just hitting on one other piece about what makes Speakeasy unique. And it'll really be in line with all the different strategies that we talked about today. So what makes Speakeasy unique is our unwavering focus on unique experiences, where every other platform has really approached BevAlc e-commerce from the same angle, and that's to amass the largest decentralized network of retailers who are the ones packing boxes in the aisle of their store. And what we've seen, and you've been in liquor stores, they are not built for e-commerce. They lack the warehousing capacity, the trained personnel, and really the infrastructure to do anything else than take a bottle off a shelf, put it in a brown paper bag, hand it to a consumer, or ultimately drive it to that consumer's home. Where we at Speakeasy are focused on centralized fulfillment, minimizing the number of shipping points to maximize the flexibility of what we can support. So Speakeasy is the only platform, not only with a network of retailers, but we also have our own managed warehouses with our own team, our own tech, and our own processes, allowing us to offer unmatched control and scalability, which helps us get into this question that you just asked, Amy. Let's talk about product bundles. So regardless of the season, I'm sure you're there scratching your head right now asking, how do I create a unique experience for my consumers? In our minds, a unique experience in alcohol can simply be about shopping or accessing products that are not in the corner liquor store. The most successful Speakeasy partners are accomplishing this via product bundles. Luis, if you don't mind going to the next slide. This starts as rudimentary as pairing a bottle with a piece of branded merch as seen here on the Frey Ranch website. Best part is when a consumer wears your branded merch, they are a walking billboard and they paid for that privilege to market your products. Brands are also crafting shopping experiences for particular occasions, none of course more popular than gifting. Nothing says thank you, congratulations, happy birthday, like a delicious bottle of alcohol. Think about how much more personal it can be when it doesn't arrive at your friend's or family member's house in a brown paper bag. Maybe you know someone who's interested in trying one of the hottest new vodkas, and to try 3 flavors from AU Vodka that can be gifted in this super cool light up briefcase. And then you can make it rain in that gold gang cash cannon. Yes, that picture in the bottom right corner is a money gun. What is more festive than that? Think of that experience and how it will stick with everyone involved and really create a connection and create loyal fans. It's important to design offerings that are not just unique, but also authentic to your brand. I've personally never before seen a signed guitar for sale available in the liquor store, and that's what we're currently offering with Nick Jonas. So Stoli Group's Villa One Tequila has this for sale on their shopping cart at the moment, powered by Speakeasy. I'll spare you the details of the logistics needed to host a celebrity with 35 million Instagram followers. Let's just say it included a groomer and a section for the grooming before any photos were allowed. But ultimately, we had them come to the warehouse and sign product. We were able to pull it off. And given this limited inventory, this type of offering is really only feasible online. In October, to build hype for the first cyber trucks being delivered, Tesla launched the Cyber Beer Bundle. It came with these 2 beers and 2 matte black ceramic steins, which were quote unquote glazed and fired to mirror the form of the Cybertruck. Simple works, don't get me wrong, but going outside of the box can make a splash and sometimes be more effective. All of these product bundles are examples of effective campaigns that really can move the needle throughout the year.
Huh, interesting. Actually, it's funny. Over this past weekend, I actually just saw my first sort of Cybertruck in person. I was down in
It's
Solomon's
jarring.
Island in Maryland, and I was like, "Whoa, wait, what's happening?" So it was kind of interesting there. So you mentioned a little bit about this, but influencer marketing is sort of obviously a hot topic for brands, regardless of if they have an online store or not. Um, how do your brands or the brands that are on Speakeasy, how do they leverage influencers or brand collaborations successfully?
Yeah, collaborations are certainly a hot topic right now. If you don't mind, go to the next slide. Perfect, Luis. In BevAlc and across verticals for that matter. And are another example of a solution that meets consumers at home with a really premium experience. Collabs are particularly appealing since it presents an opportunity to tap into another audience to gain awareness and hopefully consumers as well. Especially when working with influencers and other successful brands, you can do so incredibly quickly and move the needle for your business overnight. One option is for brands to partner with an influencer for a particular launch or SKU. For example, one of our brands, Law's Whiskey House, they launched a new SKU with Colorado University Athletics, and it's now the official whiskey of CU. The name comes from Ralphie the Buffalo, the live mascot of the University of Colorado. Maybe you're a big college football fan, but I had no idea that they had a real living
Yeah.
buffalo, not a human dressed as a buffalo, as their mascot. Pretty cool.
My
And
niece
when
goes there, so I happen to know that.
Perfect. I love that. And when creating an evergreen product as Lost did, it's important to consider not just the initial splash, but the continuous engagement and sales. Colorado University is such an exceptional fit. One, Lost is based in Colorado, but because the collaboration will constantly be championed throughout the season. So we expect sales to continue coming in over the coming months and beyond with this partnership. Plus, the credibility and the awareness will extend beyond this one SKU and drive value for the entire brand and all of their offering. Some brands are entirely built around celebrities, such as Noble Spirits and Mike Rowe from Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs, if you can recognize that face. Noble knows firsthand the power of how a single post can make products sell out. What we've learned is it's not all about the size of the following, but how engaged the fan base is. We've been really pleasantly surprised how Mike Rowe has been able to move more product than influencers with significantly larger followings. The last example of a collaboration that we want to hit on is a brand collaboration as opposed to an influencer collaboration. This one was with Frito-Lay and Portland, Oregon-based Eastside Distilling. The vodka, was sold out in just a matter of hours, was made in part with the same potatoes used for Lay's potato chips. So people eat and clearly drink this stuff up. Everyone wants to partner with the alcohol industry, and who can blame them? We are super cool, we're super fun. And when we think of these collabs, we naturally gravitate towards influencers. But other brands like Frito-Lay, they have a loyal following, they have a loyal customer base who've demonstrated buying behaviors, not just likes or follows with many other influencers. When we think of big influencers that maybe haven't been involved with prior products, they're literally just following that person they're interested. But when you have actually purchased something from the brand, you're demonstrating a different level of connection. And that's something you as a brand owner, as a supplier, are looking for. So we strongly encourage you to consider partnering with other brands as part of your holistic strategy. And these are just a few of the examples that we've highlighted here. We also work with Matthew McConaughey and his brand Pantalones, Emma Watson from Harry Potter and her brand Renee Gin that just launched here in the US, and a bunch of other ones.
Oh, that's very cool. I'd never seen this the Lay's bottle of vodka there. It's kind of interesting. So I know I jumped the gun a little bit earlier. So these are just sort of general strategies, but I know there's going to be some specific strategies going into October, November, December that you all have seen your brands use. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that as folks start thinking about, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the holiday season.
I know, right?
I'm
Here
not
at
one of those
Speakeasy.
pumpkin spice people that say, let's start this all in August. I'm going into the fall kicking and screaming.
Here at Speakeasy, we have two seasons. We have O&D and preparing for O&D. So I totally understand. We're always thinking about O&D because, of course, O&D is the most important time of year for alcohol suppliers. And then, of course, in the e-commerce world, during the holidays, we see the vast majority of our sales. We put being an e-commerce company in the alcohol industry together. We typically see about 50% of our sales for the year happen over O&D, and you can even really shrink that down because it starts really building up mid-October, and then by mid-December it starts coming down a little bit.
Wow.
And to answer your question, Amy, why you didn't see Lay's potato chips, and we can go to the next slide, Luis, is because it was an LTL. It was a limited time offer, and these are about offering a product that's not always available or might not ever be available again. At least we haven't heard of another drop with Lay's potato chips. It's really about creating scarcity and capitalizing on impulsivity. It's about bridging one of the hardest gaps. Why now? So Heaven's Door, they created an amazing LTO last O&D with ultra premium liquid going beyond the bottle and centered around an influencer, bringing together multiple of these strategies that we've already hit on today. So the ceramic bottle features one of Bob Dylan's watercolor paintings and comes in this leather case. When you order the bootleg series online and this shows up at your doorstep, it creates a phenomenal experience and a deeper connection with the brand. Also, terrific gifting opportunity, which is why LTOs tend to be such a popular strategy for O&D. While gaining popularity during O&D, I do want to really focus how LTOs have become a perennial solution and really blossom over the last couple of years. So here's an example with WhistlePig. What is one of the most challenging times of year to capture consumers' attention in the alcohol industry? Hopefully you're all answering your heads. The answer is dry January, of course. Some consumers are still drying out after all the holiday festivities, and another large cohort cuts back or cuts out entirely as part of a New Year's resolution. So as an alcohol brand, how do you work this to your advantage? How about jumping on the no and low alcohol bandwagon like WhistlePig did, who offered a dry orange old fashioned as a limited time offer in January 2023? It was so successful. And if you don't mind, go to the next slide, Luis. It was so successful last year that we actually rolled out another edition in January 2024. Instead of dry or damp January, the campaign was coined Dank January. This was absolutely brilliant by WhistlePig, since as alcohol sales dip in January, cannabis sales jump. So WhistlePig was playing into both trends, and go figure, it sold out again. And so we've seen LTOs initially rise during O&D, but I really wanted to call out how in the last couple of years, we've seen LTOs become a consistent year-round strategy. Yes, you can over communicate and over launch. If you were launching an LTO every single week, then it just wouldn't feel as special. But you don't necessarily have to wait to do one LTO only during O&D. We've seen partners now get in the rhythm of launching LTOs maybe as frequently as on a monthly basis. You just have to figure out ways for them to continue to be different.
Or special occasion, times of the year. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you think is a sales strategy that's sort of underutilized?
Absolutely. So, Luis, next slide, if you don't mind. One strategy that is really underutilized, largely because there's something that we only experimented and piloted last year, is selling full barrels. Of course, with regulations, when product is going to the consumer, the liquid has to be in the bottles, but we are actually shipping the empty barrel with all the bottles to create such a unique experience. And so when a consumer orders this, they get a pallet of all the barrel yield, 200 or so bottles, and the empty barrel. Very, very cool. One of our partners, New Riff, has invested significantly into their offering, where potential buyers either receive samples in the mail or fly to Kentucky to sample barrels in person for the full experience. Consumers then choose their favorite, and a couple months later, as I continue to hit on, the entire barrel shows up at their doorstep. I personally was a little dubious, and when we were presented with this opportunity, I didn't necessarily see all these buying occasions, but from whiskey clubs to weddings to charity fundraisers to corporate gifting, selling full barrels has been a massive success for the handful of partners that have launched programs. we actually sold a barrel with another partner for a new record of $650,000. Absolutely bananas. Yes, no mistake, $650,000. It was really incredible. It was so secure that we don't actually know even who the buyer was. So we never saw that information, and was set up through this person's handler. But yeah, over $500,000 for a barrel of alcohol. Even if you're not selling them at that price, typically we're seeing barrels go anywhere from $10, $15, $20,000 and up. We had a corporate gifting client order 9 full barrels, $122,000
Wow.
transaction. So really amazing how offering these barrel programs, if you can build it up and invest in the foundation of the program, can really start driving significant sales.
I'm glad you explained about the whole barrel because I was having a hard time imagining, did he actually really mean somebody buys an entire barrel and the barrel, the bottles are shipped, but the barrel also. So that's blew my mind. I'd never thought about that. But I could actually see that kind of happening in the pre 2008, 2000, before the financial crisis back in 2008, when there were like these massive holiday parties, particularly on the East Coast, particularly in New York and all that. So it's interesting to see that has, not come back full force, but there is some interest in that.
Yeah,
But so
maybe
what is
Discus
so
as a holiday gift for employees will want to buy a barrel. We know people. Let us know.
Oh, let our leadership team know that. So what about sort of new sales strategies that you've seen taken off that are like sort of becoming popular?
Yeah, perfect. And Luis, if you don't mind going the next slide. So as Speakeasy and our partners continue to experiment, listen to consumers, listen to the data, and start executing on some new strategies, and especially as we continue investing as a community into creating more unique and premium experiences to meet consumers at home, we project custom packaging and unique unboxing experience to be the next wave of innovation to come to DTC, IDTC, white label, whatever we want to call this space. Hotel Flaviar. So some of you might be surprised to hear that 41% of consumers are planning to splurge on gifts for themselves this holiday season, despite tightening spending elsewhere. If you do not have an influencer collaboration or limited liquid to drop, there are a number of ways to enhance the experience, even if it's the same bottle you've been constantly selling for years. And the first is custom packaging and having a beautiful box for the bottle. You can think about spicing it up with virtual tasting cards, access via QR code, for example. To amplify buzz around your efforts, consider a social media challenge of the consumer's unboxing. So consumers can film their unboxing experience, share it online for a chance to win something. So there's a lot of different ways to really amplify the buzz around the efforts that you're putting in. And this year we're fulfilling for Flaviar, who offers beautiful advent calendars, and we've seen some other brands create their own smaller dedicated versions of advent calendars. There was a Sazerac project that we supported last year, for example, with just Sazerac brands that they included in their advent calendar. Advent calendars are becoming much, much more popular. Could be something to consider, or run with it, something that might be even more authentic to your own brand.
So I think one thing, Josh, before you move on, that I thought was interesting that you said was that, use the same liquid you've always been using, but maybe switch out the packaging for whatever season, which makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I do think that it's important to be thinking about LTOs. We've just seen so much success there. But if that's not feasible, and I know that the planning process to bring an LTO to market might be 12 plus months, in the interim, work on something where you can be more agile and more nimble. And custom packaging is a great way to pair the bottle with some glassware in a beautiful box. And all of a sudden that becomes so much more personal when we think about gifting and over holiday sales.
Yeah, these are great strategies. We'll have to do another webinar with another Discus partner member that can help people sort of with the marketing strategy itself. Cool. All right, so I think you got a few more things you want to share with us, right?
Yes. So I already mentioned it, but to reiterate, build it and they will not come. DTC takes time, it takes energy, which can help which Speakeasy can help with, given our services. And Amy, that last comment you made around marketing, we actually have marketing services. We truly understand how intimidating it can be to enter the space. And so we want to help from top to the bottom of the funnel with our supplier partners. And we can talk more about that. But getting back into the slides here, we also know that it takes budget, but at the end of the day, it's worth it, and it can really help move the needle. Highlighting one past project, we supported the Tesla Tequila LTO. We sold tens of thousands of these lightning bolt shaped bottles and over $10 million sold of Tesla Tequila. Well, we're all not Elon, of course. My point is this is a serious sales channel for the bev alc industry. In fact, our top partner last year in 2023, which is not a celebrity brand, by the way, they hit 3.5 million in sales on our platform, which was 100% growth year over year from 2022. And we expect similar growth rate in 2024 as we continue to learn, optimize, and invest more month over month. And don't just take my word for it. This is perfect. Luis, we can stay on this slide. Alcohol e-commerce is on an absolute tear globally, projected to add 6 billion in 2023 and another 30 billion over the next 4 years. While we're still waiting for the 2023 numbers, it's clear that e-commerce alcohol is booming, but it's still nascent in the US. So the future is bright, and now it's our job to go out and seize it. Next slide, Luis. So across these strategies we reviewed today, bundles, collaborations, LTOs, selling full barrels, and custom packaging, you can 1, break away from the pack and differentiate from the thousands of other options. 2, drive new customer acquisition. And thirdly, and most importantly, build loyal, lifelong super fans who tell the world about your brand. And before we wrap things up, I just wanted to quickly mention that we have a lot more to share. So if you want some additional tips from Speakeasy, if you want to go deeper into some of these past projects, we have a really comprehensive e-commerce report that delves into these and more, which can be downloaded from the Speakeasy website. Speakeasyco.com is where you get that.
And Josh, we can, when we send out the link to the recording, we can include a link to that report so that people can
That's a great
get
idea.
both at the same time.
That's a great idea. Let's absolutely do that.
Yeah. So I actually did have a question. I was surprised that in the last couple slides about the expansion of global e-commerce, but let me just say this. Everyone, this is the time where we're going to turn to Q&A, but I'm going to steal it and just ask my first question. But if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, use the raise your hand icon, or put your question in the chat, and we'll be on the lookout for those. But I did have a question, Josh. I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but it surprised me that the U.S., like alcohol e-commerce sales in the U.S. you say was lagging behind global trends?
Absolutely. So thinking about the US in a silo first, if we look at e-commerce penetration rates of grocery, of beauty, of electronics, we're looking at 20% to 50% plus. So really significant e-commerce penetration rates across virtually every vertical, where in bev alc, we're sitting at around 4% e-commerce penetration rates. So that shows that we have about a 5 to 10x runway ahead of us. And so I think it's really important for this group to realize that you're not necessarily behind the 8 ball yet. More and more brands are continuing to join e-commerce and to invest more. So at some point, I hope that in the coming years or months, we'll be able to say, hey, if you haven't launched e-commerce, you might be a little bit far behind, but there's still so much potential and there's still so much growth that we expect. And one great parallel is looking at grocery. Grocery was at a similar place, maybe 4 or 5% penetration rates if we go and roll the clocks back only to about 2018. And even before the pandemic, grocery was starting to increase dramatically. And then fueled by the pandemic, grocery e-commerce penetration rates exploded. I personally never had my groceries delivered until the pandemic, and I've never gone back now. Every single week I have my groceries delivered. It's amazing. I don't have to go to the grocery store, and I love it. And we really...
I'm the opposite. I love to go to the grocery store.
I think that there's a time and a place to go to the grocery store, and when I have the time to go and hunt and look around. And I think this is emblematic of what we envisioning happening in the alcohol industry. If you know what you want, then
Mm,
why go to the grocery store? Or why go to the liquor store? You really,
right.
in my mind, want to go to brick and mortar for an experience. If you want to work with someone one-on-one that can show you around, that can talk to you about things, if there's sampling going on, but otherwise, I would rather have things delivered to me. It's convenient. And then also
Mhm.
online, I can do my own research. I can do a lot of reading. And then I don't want to get in the car and go and drive to pick it up. I would, again, much rather
And
have
not
it
have it,
delivered
or
to
yeah.
me. Exactly. And
So
then as
just
we, good.
go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your
I
thought.
was going to say the other thing that we really see a lot of potential for in e-commerce BevAlc is on the premium ends as well,
Mm,
just because there's inherently a lack of inventory to stock retailers around the country. And if there is an LTO or a very premium liquid, it's just not necessarily going to be in your local liquor store or your local grocery store. And inevitably, that's a prime example of something that you should have delivered.
awesome. So I did have one last question, but I'm going to ask it. But Josh, I don't want you to answer it, and that way folks can email you directly to get the answer. But so my question was, so if the U.S. is behind sort of the eight ball on e-commerce, alcohol e-commerce sales, who is ahead of us? That just surprises me. And maybe that's very egocentric of me, but I'm going to end it there. Don't answer. If people want the answer, they can email you, but you and I can talk afterwards.
Yeah,
Josh,
that
thank you
sounds
so much. This
great.
is really, really interesting. Yeah, it was really great, and I do hope people ask, reach out and get the answer to the question. But thank you so much, Josh, for taking the time, for joining us today, but also for Speakeasy being a Discus partner member. We really enjoy having you all on board. And before we close, I just want to remind everyone of some upcoming free Discus webinars. On September 3rd, there's actually applications open for the next Discus Academy Leadership Program, which runs throughout 2025. And there will be a sort of webinar to explain the entire program. But before I move on, thank you. There's one more question. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, this is more of a technical question. Based on my research, 8 states and the District of Columbia allow interstate DTC shipping of spirits. I believe that 2 states allow DTC shipping of spirits based on reciprocity, and some states require a license and a physical location within the state to allow such shipping. How is Speakeasy able to ship to all these states?
Yeah, so similar to other platforms, we have a network of retailers that we can tap into. Plus, we have our warehouses that where we have worked with different regulators, with legal teams, and of course our supplier partners to identify where we are comfortable shipping. And we work together to execute on that strategy. And so it's pretty common at this point that other e-commerce platforms, some other Discus members, for example, that may have spoken recently, they also have the ability to ship to over 30 states.
I think there's another question. What consumer behavior are you seeing around shipping costs? Are there certain price sweet spots which aid conversion rates? Um, yeah,
Yeah,
you
so
answered that question
shipping
earlier,
is
but so.
definitely a tricky one and something that we're constantly discussing internally and externally with our supplier partners. The strategy that we have seen thus far is let's mask the true cost of shipping. Shipping is so inordinately expensive, primarily driven by that adult signature. The adult signature alone can cost up to $8. It's really astronomical. And what we encourage our supplier partners to do is to bake in the retail price, excuse me, bake in the shipping cost to the retail
Mm,
price. So if we're talking about a $60 bottle, it's very easy to mark that up to $65, $69 because online the consumer is not as price conscious. In the store, when they're literally looking at hundreds of bottles right next to it, the consumer is very price conscious. But what we found is the online shopper is not as price conscious. They're shopping for an experience. They're shopping for something unique, and having the difference between a 60 and a 65 or $69 product, if that's something they want, is not necessarily going going to push them away. However, if you have $20, $25 shipping, a lot of consumers, even if they really wanted that product and were highly motivated to purchase, they might abandon their cart just because of that astronomically high shipping costs and abnormal. Not very many other industries do you see that high of shipping costs. Yeah, maybe if you get a refrigerator delivered, sure. But even still, a lot of times it's free shipping. And that's because these companies are baking, free shipping. You pay for it in the retail price. But I think that's the common strategy, and that's what consumers are subconsciously expecting. And so we highly encourage our partners to, one, bake in some of the shipping costs into the retail price, and then two, to incentivize the consumer to order more, have different breaks and discounts. So over $100 or over $150, over $200, you can offer free shipping or even further discounted shipping. And then both sides win. Consumers happy about not paying shipping. And as a supplier, you're selling more product and you're even driving more profit through that transaction.
Yeah, Caleb, who's on my team, and he leads our relationships with our craft members. He and I were just discussing earlier, like, don't set up more barriers to me buying something. Lower the barriers that I have to buy something. And so if you bake in the price of, shipping, or like, in Europe, they bake in the price of sales tax already into the cost of the item, you just remove that barrier. So that was a great question. Yeah, thanks to David for asking that question. So I don't think I see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Nope. So let me just go on and say that September 3rd, applications open for the 2025 Discus Academy Leadership Program season. September 11th, we have a webinar with Nielsen IQ on consumer preferences and future drivers. And on September 18th, a webinar with the Small Business Associations, SBA's webinar on their programs and grants to support small business global expansion. So I know a number of our, particularly our smaller craft members, will be interested in the Small Business Association webinar, as well as some others. Again, Josh, thank you so much. This was really fantastic. Really appreciate it. And we want to thank everyone else who joined the webinar. If you have any questions about the webinar or Discus or future webinars, or you want to connect with Josh and his team, just let us know. You can email us at membership@distilledspirits.org. Let me just see. That was just someone who just joined the event.
And if I might add, Amy,
so that's it.
Yeah. And I just want to add, Speakeasy is really unique in the regard that other platforms, they're really just technology layers, where Speakeasy, we've built an entire organization dedicated to rolling up our sleeves and getting into the weeds and getting dirty with our supplier partners. We're not here to just process orders and send them to retailers or ship them from our warehouse. We are equally as dedicated to your success. We have partner success teams. We have marketing services. We really want to be the ones that are the experts. We have tremendous visibility. You've seen from some of these past examples of some of the projects we've supported, and we'd love to have individual tailored conversations with each of you. And that doesn't just end prior to closing a partnership with Speakeasy. That really blossoms and continues on. And depending on the service level that you sign up for, we have quarterly business reviews, we have monthly strategy meetings. So we really go in depth to help ensure our supplier partners are keeping a finger on the pulse, identifying additional opportunities so we can scale together.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm glad you went into additional detail on how unique Speakeasy is. I didn't know that. So that's really fantastic. So everyone, again, if you want to reach out to Josh, please, his email address is there, josh@speakeasyco.com, or you can email membership@distilledspirits.org, and we will connect you with Josh. And with that, our webinar is concluded. Everyone may disconnect, but thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Amy.